Ever since I was a little kid, I've always been loving exploring the wilderness and all that out here in the countryside, and that sort of transformed into what I do in an adult now when I ride my bike. And not many games can replicate that sort of feeling of exploring the wilderness, the outdoors, the freedom of it. And I'm here to talk to you in my sweaty bike clothes as I came out for a ride to film some bits about Oblivion. Oblivion, to this day, like 20 years later, still captures my imagination. And I don't think there are many games that really have that sort of atmosphere. Not even Bethesda themselves can capture that imagination of their original game from 20 odd years ago. And I just want to talk about it because it's a game that's very special to me, and it's just fantastic. And just exploring the wilderness, this gives you that whimsical feeling for when you were a kid, and when I'm an adult now, when I'm riding my bike or just walking about, that sort of thing. And I wish it's just something Bethesda would just revisit and just capture those moments again. Something they haven't done even with Skyrim, to be honest, and no other game really has come close to Oblivion. Yeah, it has its quirks certainly, but to be honest, it's just something I would love to do. So yeah, let's talk about Oblivion. Let's go back to my gaming room, get out of these sweaty clothes, and talk about Oblivion more in depth, shall we? What can I say about this game even more? And even in the introduction, I could say I probably summed it up to a T. But Oblivion is a game that I go back to at least once a year for the past nearly 20 years. I just feel that it's a game that still captures me in terms of its freedom and exploration, and you could say lots of games do that in terms of like open world exploration, but I feel Bethesda got it right with Oblivion. And Oblivion was kind of their saving grace because back in the late 90s, they didn't really know what to do with, not that they didn't know what to do with the Elder Scrolls series, but they were in a bit of a tough position, and they had Morrowind on their hands, which originally was meant to come out in 1998, and the old engine that they used for Daggerfall, the other spin-off games like Battlespire, it just wasn't cutting it for the time. And they went back to the drawing board and made it fully 3D with Morrowind, which would eventually come out in 2002, which surprisingly had a console port, specifically with the original Xbox. What was surprising to Bethesda at the time is that the original Xbox port of Morrowind sold surprisingly well. Not gangbusters, mind you, but it sold well enough for them to go, maybe we should focus on the consoles as well with the next project. And with Oblivion, they focused on the console version, specifically at the time the Xbox 360, the copy I've got in my hand now, with a PS3 port later coming along by a different studio because obviously the cell processor, but that's a different subject for a different time. Yeah, they consoleized the game basically. They streamlined the approach to the RPG formula. For better or worse, depending who you ask. I think Oblivion kind of hit the sweet spot of the more streamlined approach because it still felt like a role-playing game, but it wasn't completely dumbed down where Skyrim was very dumbed down. It's not a bad game, but I wouldn't call it a good role-playing game, and that sounds a bit stupid, but you will know what I mean if you've played it. Oblivion is still much a role-playing game experience. Like, you choose your class and you have to work on that build. You can't just go off and do like a different skill. You can, but it takes you ages to level up that skill. You build a class and you focus on those skills that you've picked, your major skills. And you don't have to pick a select class that's pre-built. You can build your own class at the start of the game, and that's what's amazing about Oblivion 2 is the sheer amount of customization with the gameplay, whether it be the classes, the potions you can create, the enchanted weapons you can create too, and it's just almost limitless. And for a game that was released in 2006, it's kind of insane and very compelling for a game of that era too. Not only that, I feel that its world is still absolutely amazing. Now we have open world games today, but you have to bear in mind in 2006 there wasn't an open world like Oblivion's. It was kind of insane to have a world on that scale on a console, let alone the Xbox 360, which, bear in mind, was cutting edge technology at the time. But when you think back to it, it's a system with like 5 or just over 500 megabytes of RAM in it, and the games that came out on that system, let alone Oblivion, were insane with how much they utilised the limitations of the memory bandwidth of the time. And the Oblivion kind of made this compelling and believable world where the NPCs will have schedules to follow each day. They'll do their chores in the morning, they'll do their jobs in the middle of the day, they might go to, say, the pub in the evening, and then they'll have a sleep schedule too, where they go to bed at night. Depending on what they do, they might sleep in the morning if they're, I don't know, a skooma addict, that sort of thing. And it just added a layer of believability to the world where you think you shut the game off and you think that world was still continuing regardless of your input or not, because it was still going. Like when you turn it on, you could just leave the controller there, the game on, and the world will continue without you. It's not as like open-ended like in the old Elder Scrolls games where you could kill major NPCs. I think people who complain about that, it's a bit silly, because if you kill a major NPC, you're kind of soft-locked out finishing the game. You can kill most NPCs, but there'll be important ones where if you deal them enough damage, they'll be rendered unconscious. And yeah, it's great, the quest design. The Dark Brotherhood is fantastic. The Fighters Guild's a bit meh. The Mages Guild is interesting. The Thieves Guild is an interesting one. But the Dark Brotherhood is always it's just a highlight. It's a highlight in Skyrim too, and the progression of that quest line is just fantastic. The world itself is just beautiful, and I'm talking about like the original art style. I'm not talking about the remaster, which honestly looks great, but I do agree with the consensus on the internet that the colour grading has been zapped from the original. Where the original was colourful, it fitted the whimsical fantasy nature of the game, whereas the new one kind of looks like a Fallout game in places. But it still looks good. It still maintains the atmosphere of Oblivion, but I feel the atmosphere in the original is great. The way I've always described the sort of art style of Oblivion is like it's like an oil painting come to life, almost like a Monet painting in motion in places, which is ironic because there is a side quest where you go inside a magical oil painting, but its art style with the environments look great. Character models look a bit odd these days. They look a bit dodgy. They kind of just look like smooth potatoes, and you notice that a lot more when you're locked in conversation, because what these old games do when you go into conversation, it zooms right into their face, and they kind of just stare blankly at you. But with that sort of blank stare coupled with the quirky dialogue, to be polite about it, it kind of fits this atmosphere. The odd quirky dialogue is what really fits this game, because it's a fantasy world, it's an odd world, and people go, the voice acting's a bit weird and off. And I'm not to say that it was intentional, but it feels intentional, the voice acting, because of this, how strange this world is of Cyrodiil and its inhabitants. And the hokey voice acting just kind of fits into its world. Well, yeah, the world in general is great. You have that Bethesda moment, as it were, when you do the tutorial and you come out of the dungeon and you just see the world in front of you, and it's just absolutely fantastic. You hear the excellent soundtrack by Jeremy Soule swell up as you see the Iliad ruin in front of you across the water when you leave the sewers, and it gets me every time. It's a bit emotional because it's just so good. Because I remember first seeing that when I was about 13 years old when I first played it, and even now at the age of ripe old age of 32 at the time of recording, it still looks good. And I know you could say, oh, the texture's a bit rough here and there, but from an artistic and art style perspective, Oblivion visually, if you discount the horrendous character models, still looks good. It still looks good, because that's the power of art style over following realistic visuals or graphics at the time, because a lot of the games that followed those realistic visuals and graphics from 2006, 2008, they don't look too good now. There are exceptions to the rule, like Gears of War 2, but most games chose to use art styles to age better. I mean, not too dissimilar what The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker did with its cel-shaded art style, and it just works. Its world is still captivating, and it's very special to me, Oblivion, because I think it just kind of showed me that video games could just be more than video games. They're pieces of art. They are art. Artists work on this game. The dialogue is hokey, the art style is brilliant, but it's just the overall atmosphere that I don't think Bethesda have kind of replicated since, and not even with Skyrim. I don't think its world is as compelling as Oblivion, and I know it's kind of cool to hate on Skyrim these days, but it just doesn't really come close to Oblivion, if I'm being honest. And you could just say I'm blinded by nostalgia, and to a certain degree you are right. I am a bit blinded by nostalgia because Oblivion was the first Elder Scrolls game that I played, and I played it when it was relatively new as well. And when the remaster of it came out this year, I was like, great, cool, more people get to experience the wonderful world of the Elder Scrolls 4. I mean, the brand, the Elder Scrolls, most younger gamers probably don't know what that is. I mean, I'm sure they do, but when you say Skyrim, they go, oh yeah, Skyrim, I want another Skyrim. It's like, no, you want another Elder Scrolls game. And I think Skyrim has become such a brand of its own these days that it's kind of eclipsed the overall title of the Elder Scrolls. It just captivates me, this game, and I hope more people play it now it's a bit more widely available. I mean, it's been widely available for quite a long time because it's backwards compatible on the Xbox One and the Series X and S, and yeah, it's just, even like 20 years later, I just love it, absolutely love it. I've got the guide, which I don't have to hand at the moment, it's right in front of me. But I've got the Shivering Isles. I've almost forgot to mention the Shivering Isles. They added like a whole new area to explore in DLC, which back in the day when it came out on disc, which you don't get DLCs or expansion packs that come out on disc anymore. I mean, you get standalone DLCs that come out on disc, which are basically like small sequels these days. But due to internet connections being rather slow and not reliable back in the day, they would release them on disc, so you could just install it straight to your hard drive, and it was fantastic. Yeah, Oblivion, just a game that I will hold close to my heart. From its release 20 years later to another 20 years later, and I would say another 20 years later until I pass on. It's something that will be in my collection forever because I just love it. I mean, it's not an expensive game, it's not a rare game, but it's just a good game, and forever a good game. And I hope more people will experience it by me just talking about it. And yeah, it's just a wonderful game. And I wish more companies would make more whimsical games like Oblivion. Yeah, it's just brilliant. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it. If you could subscribe and follow my socials down below. I'm still getting used to all this YouTube stuff. I've been really appreciative of all the feedback I've been getting, and people just being really supportive. This is a new venture for me, and hopefully I can get my production values a bit higher. And just subscribe, follow me on this journey, and I hope you all have a great day.